All right, welcome to another edition of the Big Blue Report featuring that guy, the two-time Super Bowl champion, former defensive captain of the New York Football Giants, Giants legend, food truck owner. And listen, I got to say it, a guy who went undefeated this past week for the New York Giants. He was undefeated. JC did not lose this week. That's Jonathan Casillas.
There you go.
The Professor Ryan Darlington. I'm Randy Zellea from backsportspage.com. And before we get started, don't forget to get all of your Giants accessories, whether it's bobbleheads, coffee mugs, anything you want that's an accessory. Go to foco.com right now. Go look at the description, click on the link, and support the show by keeping it free by ordering your stuff now at foco.com. All right, gentlemen, the good news was we didn't lose on Sunday last week. We lost on Thursday.
Hey.
So against but we didn't lose on Sunday. That was the key
That's
thing.
True.
Guys, the Giants are in a situation of just playing out the string right now. JC, in a situation like this, is this more of the we're just going to start evaluating everybody to see whether we want them in Big Blue next year?
Yeah, I think so. For staff, head coach, GM, I think they're definitely evaluating to see, the crop that they have moving forward. It's a rough situation. Whenever you are late in this year with only 2 wins, which the Giants have right now, it's not good. It's a very uncomfortable situation for everybody that's involved. So if I was in a situation as a player, I'm just playing for my future in the NFL. I'm trying to put the best film out there as possible. Hopefully it's with the team. You don't want to really be bouncing around teams unless you don't like the situation you're in, which is, that's not a very abundant thing that happens around the league. Everybody's kind of like, man, I'm here. I would love to stay here, and try to figure out if they can sign me again or whatever the case is. So everybody's playing for their future. Everybody's trying to put some good film out there because you never know when a team loses many games as the Giants, nobody's job is safe. Even if you're like, a top tier guy on a team, when the rebuild or the build is happening, those type of players, can go. They can get moved around depending on what the GM and the head coach is going to do. So, it's a very bleak and dire situation right now for the Giants, losing their best player and, their longest tenured leader in Dexter Lawrence this past week. And, with the lack of leaders on offense, with Daniel Jones leaving, Andrew Thomas being hurt, of course, Saquon Barkley not being there, it's like, man, the leadership for me is like, that's like the most sensitive thing for me right now. Cause it's like, yeah, they were great players, but like they were also the locker room guys and they're all gone. You got Bobby there, but he's a second-year guy for the New York Giants. You got Brian Burns there, first-year guy for like. There's leaders there, but they don't have that stain, as we call it, like a Dexter Lawrence, even like a Daniel Jones or a Saquon Barkley.
And the key thing is there. We were discussing this earlier in the week. They don't have the culture. One of the things that I think I spoke to both of you guys individually. But in 2022, when Brian Dable got here and Joe Shane got here, they brought in a lot of their guys from Buffalo. Got good locker room guys who understood the system, and they were going to be having an impact in their respective rooms. Those guys are gone. So you have a bunch of guys in there now who don't really have a connection to Dable, with the exception of being here with the Giants.
I think it's still an opportunity, though, right?
Right.
Every player that's in that locker room is, as you said, JC, they're playing for their future, right? They want to put film on tape. They want to do well. They want to maybe surprise some people with what they're able to put in, right? I think everybody kind of knows that this season is pretty well done, but it's not done. Right, we got 5 more games left. Right, there's a lot more football that needs to be played,
right.
And there's some things that are going to come out of that. Right, I think we know our playoff run's not going to happen this time around. But when you're in a position where you don't really have anything to lose, it means that you can be a little bit more creative in what you do end up doing. So you see some of the young guys, you try some plays that you haven't played before. You try and get guys to do things that they're maybe not used to doing, but might be good at, right? I think this is a time in the season where we are ripe for experimentation, right? and maybe it's bringing in a couple of guys that haven't been on the roster, or trying out some new guys and really seeing what they can do. I'm not saying bring in the third string and the fourth string, all that, but when you don't have that pressure of making sure that you do everything exactly right, it gives you a degree of freedom, actually. And so I'm curious, right? I'm kind of curious to see what about Daboll's play calling changes. I'm kind of curious to see what about, the comments after the game in the locker room, whether it's a win or it's a loss, what that's going to be like. Honestly, I think my biggest fear is that the team is just lost, that Daboll has lost the team. He's lost the confidence of his players, because that's something that's really hard to come back from, whether you figure something out in the last couple of games or not.
And Ryan, to your point, for me, it's where those leaders, man, the absence of leaders in that locker room can make what you just said a very real thing. And, that's why I'm like, I feel bad for the Giants right now, because when you're on a very like a suspect team, a team that don't have a lot of wins at the end of the year, like you don't feel comfortable, like you don't feel comfortable with how you played, with how the team played, and you don't feel comfortable about your future. And that's a rough spot to be in for these guys who are high pride guys, ego guys that, their whole life, for the last however many years they've been playing football for, has been very structured. And then March comes around, it's like, am I even on the team? You know what I mean? So like, it's a very, sticky situation that the Giants are in right now, and, I hope that the Giants can figure out how to actually win a couple games for the rest of the season, because they do have a couple games that I see that have potential for them to win. I don't think Baltimore, anybody's going to give them a chance. But this weekend against New Orleans, I think they have a chance for sure. With everything going on over there, the Colts, possibly as well. But we talked about culture for a little bit, and I think we spoke about it before in terms of, Mike Tomlin and what they're doing up there. You have to have winning seasons.
Yeah, you got
not
win.
just one season. You have to stack the winning seasons up. And as of right now, the Giants, in their 3 years of Daboll and Shane regime, they got one good year. And then last year was really bad, and this year was looking like it's really bad. So it's not like good year, not so good year. It's like really, let's not even call it really good. It was good, just like good enough playoffs. They got a playoff win. I think that qualifies as a good season. And then 2 really bad seasons. No matter how they finish, this is going to be a really bad season.
Yeah.
So now it's like, what type of culture do you have? And a young head coach in Daboll is only his, 2.5 years. Same with Shane as a GM, 2.5 year. And this is something I talked about earlier on the Tyranny and Style show. It's you give rookies, you give first-year players, second-year players kind of like a pass a little bit, for them to do what? Make mistakes. And we've all said it on this show. Like, this guy's coming in, he's a rookie. We expect him to make mistakes. Malik Neighbors, he comes in, drops a couple passes. We expect him to make mistakes. But it's like, not that you don't expect it from head coaches, they're just not given that grace period that a lot of the players are afforded. And you see it all around the league. There's already been coach changes this year. Salah's been there for a few years, but like, in this day and age now, it's like you don't even have that much time to develop as a quarterback or develop as a GM. So that's where I'm like, kind of like, man, I hope they still get a little more time, because what have they built? They haven't built anything for us to say this is exactly what Daboll and Shane has done, because of the 2 basically bad seasons that they have been a part of. So it's like, what could we look at? What's the foundation for the Giants? And you want to look at players, those players are going to hurt. You look at both sides of the ball. Look at the foundation of the squad, of the team going into this year. Every single player that we thought, let me say, minus Bobby Okereke, because he was the only holdover from last year that I'm considering as one of those top leaders in the locker room as well as on the field. But you got Andrew Thomas, he's hurt. Daniel Jones, he's gone. Dexter Lawrence, he's hurt. Those are the top 3 guys that are no longer either not playing for this team or that are injured. So for me, that's a big issue for me. And the culture is like, what is the culture? What have they established in these 2.5 years under Daboll and Shane And it's like, that's a big question mark. So if they can figure out a way to get a couple of wins, and look, if you could end the season with a win, let's rewind a couple years ago to the Detroit Lions. They started out 2 years ago not good, and then they finished the season with like 7 or 8 wins out of their last 9 or 10 games. And that started kind of snowballing into the next year, which was last year, which they were really good last year, man. It's an NFC Championship, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And now this year they're rolling again. So it's like you can have some type of positivity in a season that looks really dark and bleak right now. But like I said, these players, they're not just playing for their teams, they're playing for themselves and their futures. And, you know, if they wasn't doing that before, you better be doing it now, because everybody's getting observed, everybody's getting analyzed, and not just from this team. From the other 31 teams, everybody's film is out there.
Yeah. I think Mara desperately wants to give them the lead that none of the fans want to give him, right? He wants to establish some degree of solidity, right?
Solidarity.
Solidarity. He wants some sort of solid
stability. He wants to give us a little bit of stability.
That's why you make the big bucks, Randy. Well done. So he's desperately looking for some degree of stability because he knows we just haven't had it. For 6 years, we haven't had any kind of stability. That's the culture right now. It's one that's got a shaky foundation. And so in order to change that, right, it's got to change at the most foundational levels, right? You know, one of the things that I was trying to talk about last week was that, all right, you have to build on success, but you're not going to have this kind of success. You're not going to have a lot of success this year. You're going to have that success, right? That's what's going to work.
Micro successes.
Micro. Right. And so you build on those little tiny things that eventually, over time, get to be bigger and bigger and bigger. So I guess the question that's in my mind, and JC, I don't know if you've seen something like this before in any of the locker rooms, when you're the coach of a team that's flailing, right? There's a shaky, shitty foundation that you're really finding it hard to build on. What do you change? Like, what changes first? What kind of foundational basic elements can you change about? Is it your coaching style? Is it your play calling? Is it you have more input from the team members? Have you ever encountered anything like that kind of turned things around, even just the most incremental little bits?
Not really. You know, the times I've been on losing seasons, it kind of snowballs on you. You know, it's like you don't start out too hot, and then in the middle of the season, you're looking like, man, this is not going well. And then week 12, 13, it's like, how did we get here? You know, like, how do we get ourselves out of this mess that we're in? My last year with the Giants, 2017, I was injured for most of the year and definitely the second half of that year. And that was a very similar situation to where we were, 2016, we were a great team. You know, we went to the playoffs. You know, we ended up losing to the Packers, but like, we were a fear team. We swept Dallas. Like, we were a team to be reckoned with. Next year, I'm literally looking up at week 12, like, what happened to our team? I thought we were a legit contender, and 2 months through that season in 2017, our season was over. We didn't do well at all. So like, as a player, I was a part of that. And then as a fan, on this side of it, trying to analyze everything from, not being in the locker room and having that bias, I still can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And look, I think you don't want to change like what you're doing in terms of like overall, overall approach and like what your philosophy is as a head coach, because it's like your players are going to see right through that. It's like, all right, so what have we been doing for this last 2 years if you don't believe in that? But you have to figure out a way to get more out of your players because of what I talked about earlier, the leaders, and not just Dexter Lawrence's leadership. Who's going to play Dexter Lawrence's spot? You know what I'm saying? It's like no one can do what he does, but you're going to have to go ahead and take a double team. You're going to have to go ahead and get whammed on by a tackle. You got to hold it down. You got to keep them guards from getting up to Bobby Okereke. So guys really have to step up and play some good ball, because a lot of pieces that started this season, which hasn't went well all year, they're gone. Yep. So it's like, who are those guys that's going to step up? So, you talk about playing different guys, but different guys have to play because the guys are not here. And look, there's 5 games left, right?
Yep.
Something's gonna happen, like knock on wood that nobody gets hurt, but it is the NFL.
Sure.
There's going to be somebody else that get activated or moved up or brought in or whatever the case is because of an injury, and then it's a new piece that could fit into the puzzle for the 2025 team. So we got to see. I just hope that they can figure out a way to get at least 1 win, maybe 2 wins. And I know that's going to affect the draft status, but as a player, we don't care about that stuff. We don't care about the next year, because if you're picking first, how safe is my job if we're that bad that we got the first pick? So that's the whole thought process with me. And like I said, it's more of a empathy for this team, because I know it's hard, bro. Like when you're losing, bro, it affects your whole entire being. You go home, you're upset with the wife, you know what I mean? You got the kids at home, and hopefully you can kind of, smile with the kids and kind of forget ball. But like a lot of guys hold on to that. You're thinking about that play, that 4th down play, that drop, that missed tackle, that missed interception. Like you're thinking about that. These plays haunt you, especially when you're losing, because there's no way to get out of that thinking. You go back to practice and it's like you're still thinking about it. Another loss. What did I do wrong? You know what I mean? Like that's the snowball I'm talking about. It just snowballs on you. And all of a sudden you look back, it's like, what have I done this year? Like, am I even a good player anymore? Like, it's that serious, bro. And that's where the Giants are sitting at right now. So that's why I'm like kind of have that empathetic type of emotion right now, because that's all I could be right now, because I feel for them.
Yep. All that said, though, I mean, this conversation changes on Tuesday of next week if Tyrone Tracy has 130 yards on the ground, right? It changes to a certain degree if Leak has 7 catches for 120 yards, right?
With a win, though, Ryan, those numbers are good for individuals, but if they don't get a win, it's the same old conversation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's the same conversation.
But you can still build on some degree of success, right? I mean, you can, if you know that,
for sure. Yeah, I agree with you with that. Yeah.
And when you can either spiral and be on the bottom of the barrel and think that everything sucks and everything's shitty and you got nothing to play for and you're not going to be in the league next year. Or you can say there's these few things that are going well or that did okay on this game. Let's lean into those.
You named 2 players that I think they already checked that box as building pieces and moving forward.
Why not lean on them? Why not continue to lean on them then? Right? Why not?
I fully agree with you. They're the best players on offense, Brian. Why not lean on them?
I've been wondering for weeks why we don't hand Tyrone Tracy the ball more, even when we're down, right? That's where our yards have been coming from. I also think that Drew Lock is going to settle down a little bit this week. He was a little bit up and down last week with repetition, right? You know better than anybody, JC. With repetition comes some degree of familiarity, right? And he's been in this league. He's won games in this league. He knows what it's like, but he needs to get his feet under him, right? And, maybe he's knocking the dust off last week. And maybe this time around is a little bit more comfortable in the pocket. Maybe he's a little bit more comfortable with the playbook. Maybe, he can have a little bit more of a stable performance in the game. And so if you are able to take those elements and incrementally build on them, the conversation shifts a little bit.
And not only that, too, guys, but we keep on talking about stability. If you look at this franchise, I think Mara is more afraid of another regime change because none of the regime changes that he's made has been able to build because the guys that were here after Jerry Reese was Dave Gettleman. When Gettleman flushed the Reese guys out, Gettleman was gone. He finally got rid of all of Reese's guys. Then he was, he's gone. And now Joe Shane, who's sitting there getting rid of all Gettleman's guys, except for the ones he wants to.
Yeah, except for the stars.
Right? Yeah, see, like, Randy, I don't like when that term is used, like getting rid of these guys. Like what are we talking about in terms of that? Like, what are you building off of? Like, you come in and get rid of all of the prior players. Like, those pieces, and this is from when I played with the Giants with Jerry Reese and Gettleman, when they got rid of Landon Collins, Damon Snacks Harrison, I got off the team. Like, those were the leaders. And then you look for the next few years, it was like, where are the leaders coming from?
Right.
You got rid of all of them.
I get that. But the problem is when you keep making this change over and over, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. If you keep changing regimes every 2 to 3 years, you're not going to have any stability whatsoever. And that's what this organization has done. Like seriously, like you look at what the apologetic attitude that Mara had about Daniel Jones when they brought in Joe Shane and Brian Dable, saying we've done everything we can to screw this kid up. He hasn't had the success. But you know what? At the same time, you have to let these guys, and I know I make this argument all the time, and Ryan keeps saying to me, no, they made their choice. This regime made their choice and hitched their wagon to Daniel Jones. And this is what happened. But reality is, I want this regime to go out there and pick a new quarterback. I want them to get it right. It took it took Ernie Accorsi a long time to get it right to bring Eli Manning here. Okay, you look, Phil Simms retired, I think, in 1991 or 1992. I have to check on that. They didn't have real stability at that quarterback position until Eli Manning got here. Yeah, they had Kerry Collins, and they made a Super Bowl with him. But that was I don't want to say it's a stopgap quarterback, but Kerry Collins was not a long-term solution. He came here from Carolina. So they need to go out there and get their guy. They need to go out there and get someone young who is going to be the future of this team. They can't miss on this.
Yeah, and they need to put in a system that works, right? I mean, the system that they've been trying over the last couple of years just doesn't work. You can't win with that system. So you can't run Josh Allen's offense with Daniel Jones. Well, that's because it doesn't work, and that's what. Yeah. And that's. I wonder if that's the big issue, right? If he's trying to make players fit his system instead of developing a system that works with the players that he's got, right? You know, I'm trying to make you into this so that my system will work, instead of saying, okay, this is where all of the talent is. This is the kinds of stuff that you can do. This is what gives us the best chance to win. I'm going to do my game plan around that, right? And I don't think that's the way that they've been doing it. I think they've been trying to fit round pegs into square holes and make them fit. And that can make
keep the point going, because I got something to add to this. Just give me 1 minute. I'll be right back. All right.
Yeah, you got it. And Ryan too. And I think the big thing with that is in 2022 they did that with Daniel. They said, you know what, Daniel, your strength is your legs, not your arm. So we're going to keep the throwing to a minimum. So when you are throwing, it's productive. Otherwise, run, boy, run. That's really what it came down to.
But then they went away from that, right? And tried to make Daniel Jones Josh Allen. And
you're right, and it didn't work. And my big thing, remember what I kept on saying? Daniel did a great job running the ball. So what we're going to do is bring in some more weaponry to throw the ball to. Wait, what?
I was a little surprised, right? When we were talking about the offense going through Daniel, I got it. But, there needed to be more RPO. There needed to be a lot more focus on the run than on the trying to throw the ball down the field.
They're now in a situation where they have to really decide whether these guys who are available in the draft this year is a quarterback that they really, really would like to grow, or are they going to, or are they going to look at these guys and say, I don't see it. We're going to have to bring in a free agent, or just go with Drew for another year and let's see if we can get into this Arch Manning sweepstakes.
I think they have to. I think they have to, and I guess that's another reason why I'm not super worried about if we do manage to win a couple of games and we come out of the top 2 or 3 picks, right? The guys, we're not going for those Cam Ward and Shader Sanders. I personally don't think that's the answer for us, unless you take a Cam Ward and you sit him for a year. No matter who your quarterback is next year, if you draft a rookie quarterback, whether you get him in the first round, the first 5 picks, or the second, or even the third round, and you want to try and make him into something, he's got to sit behind a veteran. He's got to hold the clipboard for a year. Otherwise, you're throwing somebody that's not ready for it to the Wolves, and you're going to have another season that's unsuccessful.
You're listening to the Big Blue Report, courtesy of PackSportsPage.com. You can always listen to the show and all of our archives available on iTunes. It's now known as Apple Music. It's not iTunes anymore.
Apple Music. I pay for it. I pay enough for it. You might as well call it the right thing.
Yeah. Spotify. You can also watch us every single week on YouTube. We're going to be adding some extra bonus coverage coming up over the next couple of weeks. I will not be at the stadium this week. I'm taking this week off, my little man's birthday, and we're going to be I'll be back in stadium against Baltimore. Ryan will have plenty of boxes of tissues for all the upcoming games, so you don't want to miss out on that. I think we should do a live stream of Ryan watching the game.
You want to see a depressed fan base? Let's watch Ryan watch the game.
I told you it's like that episode of Family Guy. Here's the first pitch of the Mets season.
That's right,
and that's our season, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. But look, we keep making jokes about it, right? But there are a lot of games left. There's a lot of football left, and we might see something that we're not expecting, right, come out of it. And
a win,
maybe,
a win,
yeah, maybe a win. So that would be lovely. That would be lovely if we could get a couple of wins, right? That's fine.
Look,
but you gotta be looking for the positive in a situation like this, because circling the barrel, right? Just circling the drain doesn't do anybody any good.
No, and JC, right when you left, I made this point to Ryan, because we were talking about the system and how a Dable system, like he wasn't trying to do a Josh Allen system with Daniel Jones, but in 2022, he limited his throwing. So when he was throwing the ball, it was productive, but he was doing so much with his legs. It didn't make any more sense to go out and get more receivers for him to throw the ball to, because he was having more success with his legs and short throws and not throwing the ball that much. Why not stay with that recipe? Because it was working. Because Daniel, look,
I don't mind that they got. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't mind that they got additional receiver talent. I don't mind that they
needed it. Right.
They needed it because they needed those defenses to key on something else. Right.
I get that. I get that, but like if you're able to do that and you're able to get them in the draft or be able to get it like for little to nothing, but you ended up burning a draft pick on Darren Waller to a guy who really seemed disinterested in being here.
Well, second year.
You missed though, Randy. I don't think you can hold that, because we were all excited about Darren Waller.
I get it.
All were excited. I was excited, but instantly on film, I started watching him. I said, "Oh, yeah, that was."
This is a gamble.
Well, I'm saying, like armchair quarterback. We're looking at it. Armchair. We're all excited when we got him, and then we were all like, all right, well, huh? This is the guy everyone's making a big deal of. Like, in the moment we were excited, but then
what I noticed about Daniel Jones too, especially like from 2022, and you compare the last 2 years, he never was a good thrower of people running away from him. So like any outbreaking route, he never was a good thrower of those type of passes, whether they were deep comeback outbreaking routes, quick outs, deep outs, 7 routes, those routes that go away from him. He was not good at throwing those routes. I think especially in 2022, he was above average in throwing in breaking routes. And that's where you saw a lot of Richie James receptions at back in 2022, and Isaiah Hodgins routes in 2022, a lot of in breaking routes. And I think they got away from doing that. A lot of outside breaking routes where it's a little bit further away from the quarterback, and it's not, because when those are like downhill throws, and for some reason, Daniel Jones, he was a lot better at doing those type of throws than those breaking away from throws. And he struggled mightily the last 2 years throwing those type of passes, as we've seen this year. But the point I was trying to make earlier, before I had to step out, right? I talked about how John Mara, was looking before the Eagles game, right? How he was kind of looking, like worried, to use a better term. For me, it's like John Mara has a lot of experience at being an owner, right? You're bringing in head coaches and GMs who have 0 to no experience, right? I think John should be a little bit more hands-on. I'm not saying be the decision maker, because that's why you hire these guys, right? But when you have a business and you're bringing in people that are new to their position, and you are not new to your position, and you have a lot of pegs on the wall, you have a lot of experience doing what you do, you should be fully invested in their decision making. So like, yes, they're making decisions, but like you should give all of your input. Like he said, he didn't want Saquon Barkley to leave. Well, he didn't say that. He said he'll have a hard time sleeping, right? That's what he said.
Mhm.
He'll have a hard time sleeping. Why don't you just say, don't let that dude out the building?
Yeah.
Because he means so much to this organization. And like, it's like John knew that. Joe Shane didn't. Joe Shane didn't know that. And when we look at, when they start looking at Joe Shane's body of work for the New York Giants, right? Let's say it ends. Let's say it ends this season. That's going to be the major con in the things that he did for the New York Football Giants. You got pro 2024 draft class, and you can go through, you know, some of the guys that he brought in, Bobby Okereke, you know, Brian Burns, like those are all pros. But the biggest con, which is one of the biggest cons ever, is letting Saquon not just leave, but go to your rival. And he's as good as we all thought he was. The only person that didn't think he was that good, it looks like, was Joe Shane. I feel like that was his biggest mistake. And if the Giants can hold on to him, and John Mara said, you know, he's good for another year or two, however the case is, he can outgrow that, right? He can do more, and people can kind of sweep it under the rug. But if he doesn't last longer than this year, they're going to point right to that decision that he made. All the good decisions that he made, it didn't even matter because he made that one crucial mistake. And yes, it was the right decision to make at the time in 2022 to sign Daniel Jones for that contract. But allowing him to leave to the Eagles with no compensation, that's hard for me to just sit back and say, okay, I can say that was a good move, because I can't say that.
Look, every GM has swings and hits and swings and misses, right? He whiffed on Darren Waller, right? I think he made a mistake letting Xavier McKinney go, right? I think honestly, as we've all been saying, right? Let the best player on the team walk out the door and go down I-95, right? So there are going to be those things that are just misses, right? But you also can't overlook, right? And you mentioned him, JC, right? Burns, good. Okereke, good. 2024 draft class, good. Some misses on the 2022, like you can consider Evan Neal a miss unless he comes up and shows some major stuff over the course of the
Brian,
next.
before you finish your point, I watched him on film last week.
Yeah,
he was not good, bro.
Okay.
No, he was not.
All right. He has, but I mean, I guess that's what this point in the year is for. That's what the remainder of this season is for, is to provide an opportunity to show what you've got. And you could never say at the end of the year, if you get the chance and you fuck it up, you can never say that, we tried, that we didn't try, right? We didn't try. We didn't give him an opportunity, or he didn't have the right kind of game plan around it. You can't say any of that. Right? Because he played games. He played a lot of games, and he still messed up. So, okay. Swing and a miss, right? I think we can say that there are more misses than hits in the first couple of years of draft, right?
But I'll add on to that.
But, Brian, that only goes to the wins and losses, because if you're winning games right now, you'll be like, all right, it was a lot more wins than losses. I promise you. With the same exact roster, with the same exact moves, if you win, right? But now that you're losing, everything's under a microscope.
Yeah.
So of course you're going to look at the negatives and why you ended up, 3-14 or whatever the record is going to be. I don't even want to say it out loud because that just sounds crazy. like, and I say 3-14, hoping they win one game, right? Like, it's looking like it could be 2-15. That's crazy.
I'm trying to help John Mara sleep at night. Right, I'm trying to help him justify his decision to keep Joe Shane on for one more year, keep Dable on for one more year, if they can show that they can make some adjustments that are going to help build a foundation that's going to be successful in the future.
And I want to add something to that too, because the question on the Zoom calls this week, both to Brian Dable and to some of the players that were on the calls, was they're looking at the success of the guys that were here, like the McKinneys,
elsewhere,
Barkley,
Jordan Love,
Jordan Love, Leonard Williams this past week running an interception. You know what I mean?
Yes. So my daughter saw that, right, Randy? She was like, "Why is he running so slow?" I said, "Jay, he's 300 pounds.
He's a big boy.
Oh, he's not running slow at all."
That's right.
I'm sorry. And on a quick side note, my favorite Leonard Williams moment was at camp. I think he got traded in 2023, right? I think that was when he got moved.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the beginning of camp, someone came to camp with this big sign saying, sign my box and you can take a donut. So Williams came off the field, saw the sign during practice.
I was there that day. I was there that day, Randy. Yeah.
Yeah. And he took 2 donuts and scarfed them down.
Hell yeah.
And Dexter goes, "What the hell are you doing?" He said, "These are good donuts."
This is good donuts.
Donut, baby.
Krispy Kreme. What am I supposed to do?
But you look at those guys who left here and who are having the success that they're having. That can't be ignored either. And Love is playing great in Seattle. Williams is playing good in Seattle. McKinney, oh my God, with the Packers, I'm getting ready to watch him tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing him. You look at these guys and you're saying, man, you let a lot of guys go. And some of the reasons why you're letting them go is because some of them weren't your guys. But now you have to replace them because these are a lot like Leonard Williams was a Gettleman trade.
Yeah, I think Shane is looking for the money though, right? He needed to let those guys go because he couldn't afford to pay them and get a line, right? And make the improvements that he needed to make for the year.
But that's been the big conversation. And that's one of the reasons why you and I are sort of in that agreement. Like if you don't love this quarterback class coming out this year, if you don't fall in love with any of these quarterbacks, get yourself you set yourself a quarterback for 1 or 2 years and focus on building that offensive line and building the defensive side of the ball so you become one quarterback away. You know what I mean? Because there's 2 routes you can go with this. You can go get a veteran quarterback, and then when you find that rookie that you want, you get him. But you already have your guy. I
feel like there's enough quarterbacks in this draft, especially where the Giants are going to land at and the teams that are sitting in front of the Giants. I think the Giants have an opportunity to get one of those top guys in this upcoming year's draft. But I would like to go the route of drafting your future, but also bringing in a quarterback that's going to be here for at least 1 or 2 years, maybe 3 to 4 years as a backup for 2 or 3 of those years on the back half of that, but at least coming in because they have experience as a starter.
Yep.
We
Right.
were saying Flacco.
Joe Flacco. I can't believe I can't actually believe that I said that when I did.
You know why not Flacco? Because the guys that I'm thinking about for the draft this year, I'm pretty sure they're all dual threat guys. And you want to not only just learn how to be a pro, but you want to learn how to run an offense. Right. How to play what you want to do, what the coaches want to do with you. You have to be able to see that firsthand. Yeah. Because if you come in and now you're running a totally different offense, because there's none of these quarterbacks going to run an offense like Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco can do under center. Of course, he's a big arm type of guy, but he's immobile. He's always been immobile. And all of these quarterbacks, they're going to be able to be a dual threat. And that's how the game is now. Joe Flacco's from, he's not that old, but he is old. When I say not that old.
Who's your mobile veteran that you get then? Right? I mean, who's the guy that's going to run? I have
how long did Tyrod sign with the Jets?
2 years?
1 year deal. I think it's 1 year deal.
Was it a 1?
If it's a 1 year deal, bring Tyrod back in. Bring Tyrod back in. Because Tyrod has won games in the league. He's played well for the New York Giants. Of course, his injury history is up in the air. But you can't tell me that Tyrod won't be a great stopgap type quarterback.
He'll never come back.
I think he'll be great.
He's too pissed off at the organization. He's too pissed off at the organization.
I agree with you. That was the first thing that came to my mind. I try to answer the question as fast as possible.
You know what? It's going to make Randy super happy, but let's get Aaron Rodgers in here.
Bite your tongue.
I love the way he plays, but
I know. I know Randy hates Rodgers. So
can I tell
Randy, you hate him, Randy?
I just, man, JC, you're gonna kill me for saying this. You're gonna kill me for saying I think he's an overrated quarterback. I think he's overrated.
Did you hear that, Aaron?
Yeah, you hear that, Aaron? You're overrated.
4 MVPs to how he's playing now. I can see that. But let me tell you something. This dude was incredible. I've never beat that dude ever. I've lost him every time I played him.
I listened, and this was like 2 or 3 years ago. I heard Colin Cowherd. I want to make sure I credit the right guy for this. I heard Colin Cowherd talk about Aaron Rodgers, and he went through about the overrated conversation. Like I've always felt this, but Colin even brought it out to a different length. He said, if you look at the comebacks that he won a couple Hail Mary games where he threw a Hail Mary pass at the end of the game. But Eli Manning has more fourth quarter comebacks than Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? When Aaron has the lead going into the fourth quarter, he's a great quarterback.
Yep.
When it comes
So
with that
He
pressure
also
on the
has
line,
double the amount of Super Bowl rings too.
yes, Eli.
He
Yeah,
also had Devontae Adams. Anyway,
the other part of that too is, we're talking about the quarterbacks you'd want to bring in. I honestly, JC, you're right about the mobility because the quarterback position is a lot more mobile now. The two names I was sort of thinking, we keep on talking about Stafford, because it seems like it's the right fit for a couple of years to be here, and then he can go off into the sunset. But the more realistic choice is going to be a guy like Mitch Trubisky, who's out there. Mitch Trubisky is not exactly a sexy name that you want to bring to New York. And they're saying, yeah, we got rid of Daniel Jones, the successor to Eli Manning, but get ready, Giants fans. Mitch Trubisky's coming to town.
Could Drew Lock do something in these last 5 weeks to be that guy?
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think that's what I said that to Ryan earlier today too. This is going to be Drew's first full week of practice of being the number one guy, so he's going to have a little bit more handle of the offense. Look, this might be the stopgap that they need for the next year if they decide to draft one of these rookies. I'll be honest.
They got to re-sign him, right? Because Drew Lock's
it's 1 year, 1 year deal.
I
got to go ahead.
And I don't want Sanders' kid here. I really don't, because then you're going to have to deal with the circus that comes with it, man.
Yeah, but if he goes 11-6 and takes them to the playoffs,
that's a big if, man. That's a
big I don't.
One of them rookies is a big if.
That's why you put it. That's why you give him a clipboard. That's why you don't let him play that first year.
You got to give him a clipboard.
Yeah, and not for nothing, but I mean, let's say, just for shits and giggles, that if we're looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers next year and they decide that they want to roll with the young guy instead of the old guy, maybe Russell's available. He took a look at us before. Maybe that's not a bad option for a couple of years, right? And I think it is the right way to go. If you're not enamored with anybody in this class, because apparently he saw what he saw. Dable saw what he saw in Jaden Daniels. Couldn't get him, right? And he's tearing it up. So maybe Dable does have an eye for talent along those lines. And if he's not enamored with any of the guys that's in this year's draft, then you have to sign a guy for a good 3 years, because he's going to be your main guy for next year. They're going to draft a kid for the following year. He holds the clipboard. And then that third year of the contract, the kid starts and the veteran backs him up. It just seems like that's the only way to make it work.
The Giants staff, they've been going to those Colorado games, checking out Mr. Sanders.
I know.
Maybe they're looking at Travis Hunter.
But here's
they've been to multiple games. I don't think got to be looking at both of them for sure.
They do.
Look, I'm throwing this out there. What happens if Jacksonville decides to move on from Trevor Lawrence and decide to go after a quarterback?
I'm kind of worried about retreads. You know what I mean? Like taking somebody off of the midden heap and trying to make something out of them. It worked with Isaiah Hodgins, but it doesn't work very much. It doesn't work very often after that. I'd rather have an established veteran guy who has won, who knows what it's like to win, who knows what it feels like, who knows what it takes to win. And I don't know that those other guys have.
Yeah, they just don't grow on trees, though. You know what I mean?
You're right.
There's not going to be too many free agent quarterbacks, or backup quarterbacks that don't like the current situation that they're in that the Giants could bring in. And it ain't going to be cheap. Like you talk about Matthew Stafford, that's 30 M's, bro.
But that's
at least
that's
30
worth
million,
it, though. It's worth that money. If you want to talk about building stability, that's how you do it. You got to spend money to get it. You know what I mean? You're not going to find a diamond in the rough. But
no, definitely. Look, you're not going to find a Bo Nix at 10th, 11th in this draft.
Yeah. Sure.
Hey guys, let's do trivia. I don't have it real quick. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, sure. So this week's trivia, as always, brought to you by NFLShop.com, powered by Fanatics. If you feel like you can, show your love for the Giants and support us by clicking the link in the show description. Place your order today, whether you need gear for the 2024 season or maybe for the 2025 season instead, or just want to rep Big Blue all year round like we do. Go to the description below. NFL Shop does have you covered. Head to that description, click on the link, get all that Giants gear, And let's go. Let's roll with some trivia.
All right, guys. So Eli Manning has played the New Orleans Saints 8 times. True or false? He does have a winning record against the Saints.
That's an interesting one. So who was he playing all those years? He was playing Drew Brees for a couple of them at least.
I know we beat Eli, but then we also lost to Eli in MetLife.
JC, were you
David
part?
Wilson took that touchdown to the house. Oh my God, did a backflip after that, bro. How you run 100 yards from a kick return touchdown and do a backflip? That's so disrespectful.
It's not that hard.
JC, were you part of that high scoring, like it was like a 40,
yes,
8 to 40,
yes.
40 game?
52 to 49. Trust me, I remember it because it was all my defense. So bad.
Oh man, I just remember that
bad.
game. I just remember that game so well. I remember because I think we beat San Francisco. You guys beat San Francisco the week before, and I was like, I'm so fired up for that New Orleans game, and I'm like, oh my God, it was like 30 points at halftime. All right,
Yeah.
so what do you guys? So
here's think? I'm gonna go ahead and use my big old brain here, and I'll say that because you're saying if it's a win or is it a winning record or a losing record, and they played 8 games, then it can't be 4-4. So it's either got to be 6 wins and 4 losses, or 4 wins and 6 losses.
6 wins, 2 losses, 2 wins, 6 losses, something like that.
Did I do that right?
Yeah, you were doing 10 games.
You're right. Okay. So much for my big brain. It's 5-3 then, right? So is it 5-3 or 3-5?
Oh, 5, yeah, right.
I think it's 5-3. I think he's got a winning record.
Eli has a losing record. I'm going false.
Okay. JC, you were 100% correct. He was 3-5 against the Saints in his career.
Yeah.
But and the reason why I wrote that question just because I kept on thinking about that 52 game.
The thing is, I've been on both sides. I've been on the win for New Orleans and the win and the loss for the Giants. So both sides of that.
Yeah.
So I brought up the list for free agent quarterbacks for 2025.
Let's hear it.
The first name that comes up, they're doing this. They're filtered by average per year, what their salary was before they hit free agency. The number one guy, Sam Darnold. That's a guy that you can definitely bring in. And because they have a young guy behind him, he could be a possible option, I think.
Yep.
We're going to have to pay Sam Darnold, though, especially what he did this year and what they're going to continue to do this year.
Yep.
Got Zach Wilson, don't like that. Trey Lance, don't like that. Jacoby Brissett, don't like that. Taylor Haneke, don't like that. Marcus Mariota, maybe. He's a mobile quarterback. He's a guy that can run the football. He's a guy that has experience. He's a guy that won a lot of games. He lost a lot of games too, but he's won some games in the NFL. Drew Lock is next at $5 million. You got Jarrett Stidham, Andy Dalton, got Justin Fields, Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston.
Famous
a lot of
Jameis.
interceptions, but he threw for almost 500 yards a day. He threw 6 touchdowns and 2 to the other team, but hey, who's counting, right?
Andy Dalton for some reason sounds interesting to me. I don't know why, but it just does.
Yeah, Mac Jones, Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo, Case Keenum, Mason Rudolph, Easton Stick. I have no idea who that is. Easton Stick, Cooper Rush, Dobbs, Brandon Allen, Nick Mullins, Kyle Trask, Josh Johnson. He could play for his 38th team for Josh Johnson. He played for the 49ers 3 times, 3 separate times. Yeah. That's crazy.
But he's an astrophysicist, isn't he? He's the one that worked for NASA.
No, that's Dobbs. I said Josh Johnson.
Oh, Josh.
But Josh Johnson
was here with us.
He
was here with us.
Wow. How about that?
He's been on every team. On every team
multiple times, right?
Him and Alex Tanny have every practice jersey retired in his basement.
He's 39, though. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. There's some interesting names on that list, though, right? I mean, Andy Dalton is one that is interesting to me, right? Sam Darnold is probably the best, most capable player based on what he's doing this year, right?
Yep.
But you're paying for him.
You're paying for him. But listen,
you're going to have to pay for Sam. Sam Darnold is going to get the biggest contract out of any of these guys by far. It's not even
correct. But you're signing him for 3 to 4 years, right? I mean, the bottom line is he's going to want a longer term deal. You're signing him up for 3 to 4 years. And if he provides the stability that allows you to build a foundation that's going to make you successful in the future, he's worth every fucking penny.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, look what he's doing in Minnesota, man. Like, they're legit. They're a legit contender with a dog in there. Matter of fact, their division is good. The Packers are good. The Lions are good. Minnesota's good. Chicago's not terrible either.
No,
Chicago can beat you if they can figure out. I mean, they just fired their head coach, so I don't know how that's going to be. Now, but
the division is strong. They keep progressing. That's going to be a good job to get. That's going to be someone's going to be able to take advantage of that. Guys, let's go quick prediction, and we'll wrap this thing up for this upcoming weekend. I think the Giants are just due for a win. I just think they are. I'm going to go 21-17 New York. Right.
Yeah. I think Drew Lock settles down a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game. I mean, we can't manage more than 15 points a game. So I'd say, boy, this is tough.
Yeah.
The Spencer Rattler's not all that either. So, I mean, it's like the toilet bowl. So, let's do 17-14 Giants. I'm going to give it to the Giants. 17-14 Giants.
Yeah, I'll go. I'm gonna try to get. I'm gonna try to put it out there so the Giants can get a win. I'm on the same page as with both of you guys. I don't think it's gonna be a high scoring affair. Vegas got the over under at 40.5. I think they're gonna fall short of that. I think the game's gonna be 20-17. New York Giants. If the Giants can't stop the run, though, it's gonna be a long day for them.
It's a long.
Kamara's gonna run. Yeah,
Kamara's a beast. If they can stop the run, I think they can go ahead and get this win because New Orleans Saints are not like the teams of the past with the Drew Breeses. And even when Taysom was playing quarterback or whatchamacallit, Jameis Winston was playing quarterback, they're not that team anymore. Yeah. So I don't expect them to come in, to MetLife and score a lot of points. I think it's going to be a lot of punting in the game. And I think whoever, makes the most mistakes through turnovers and also penalties, that's going to be the team that loses the game.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we will be back next week and we will dissect this and we will move on to Baltimore. That's going to be a fun one to discuss. For Jonathan Casillas, Ryan Darlington, I'm Randy Zellea from Back Sports Page, and we will see you next week here on the Big Blue Report. We'll see you then.